You got your hair cut last month, and somehow you look the same amount of tired. Maybe older. You can't figure out why. It's not your face. It's not your age. It's the cut, and there's a real, physical reason. It's adding years instead of taking them off, sometimes 4 to 6 years in a single photo. Today I'm giving you 3 haircuts that genuinely take a decade off, and 3 that quietly age you the second you sit down in that chair. One of them is probably sitting on your head right now. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and the best fixes for women over 50, so you get real results fast. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I cover this every week. Haircut number 1 to try, the long layered shag. You know that haircut where the woman looks effortless, like she just got back from somewhere warm and her hair did all the work? That's not luck. That's a shag, and it might be the single most underused cut for women over 60. Here's the thing nobody says out loud. Most women over 60 are terrified of layers. They think layers mean thin, wispy, see-through hair. So they avoid the one cut that would actually fix the thinning they're already dealing with. The long layered shag is built entirely around movement. Instead of one heavy blunt line weighing everything down, you've got layers cut at different lengths starting around the cheekbone, moving down through the shoulders. That movement does something a blunt cut can't. It lifts the face. It catches light. It makes thin hair look intentional instead of just thin. I watched a woman in a salon chair last week. Stunning bone structure, perfect posture. And her hair was just sitting there, flat, heavy, doing nothing for her face. She kept asking the stylist to just clean it up. She didn't know what she was actually asking for was layers. So why does this cut take years off? 2 reasons, and the first one surprises people every time. Layers around the face catch light differently than flat hair does. Light bounces off the shorter pieces near your cheekbones, and that bounce is what reads as glow on camera and in person. Flat, one-length hair absorbs light instead of reflecting it. That's the secret nobody explains at the salon. Here's exactly what to ask for. Say this: I want long face framing layers starting at the cheekbone, with interior layering through the crown for movement, and keep the length below the shoulder. That phrase, interior layering through the crown, tells your stylist you want volume from underneath, not just length on top. Second fix: ask for a soft curtain fringe blended into those face framing layers. Even if you've never had bangs, it doesn't have to be a full fringe. A soft swept piece that grazes the brow bone does something dramatic to wide set or longer faces. It shortens the appearance of the forehead immediately. Third thing, and this one's secretly the most important: texture at the ends. Ask for point cutting at the ends, not blunt cutting. Point cutting removes weight without removes length, so the ends look feathered and soft instead of chopped. Most stylists default to blunt ends, unless you specifically ask for point cutting, so you have to say the word. Now let's talk swaps, because this is where it actually clicks. Before, a heavy one-length blunt cut sitting at the shoulder with no movement. After, that same length, but with face framing layers from the cheekbone down and interior crown layering. Same length, completely different face. Before, flat iron, totally smooth ends. After, point cut, slightly textured ends that move when you walk. That single change is what makes hair look alive instead of static in photos. Maintenance is simple. Get the face framing layers refreshed every 8 to 10 weeks, even if you're growing the rest out. The layers are what's doing the work, so they're the part that can't be left to drift. What nobody tells you about this cut: it photographs better than almost anything else for women your age, because the movement disguises exactly the kind of static, heavy hair that ages a face in pictures. Next, I've got a cut that's even more dramatic. And it's the one most women are too scared to ask for, until they see what it does for their jawline. Haircuts number 2 and number 3 to try. The textured pixie plus the long bob with curved layers. Second one's the textured pixie. And before you scroll past because you think pixies are too severe, that's exactly the wrong idea. And it's costing women a haircut that does more for the jawline than almost anything else on this list. The mistake people make picturing a pixie is imagining a 1990s cropped, slick-down cut. That's not this. A modern textured pixie has length on top, enough to style, enough to soften, and it's cut short and close only at the sides and back. The contrast is what does the work. Here's the part that surprises most women. Shorter hair at the temples and sides actually narrows the appearance of a wider lower face. It draws the eye up toward the eyes and cheekbones instead of down toward the jaw. That's the opposite of what most women assume. They think short hair exposes everything. It doesn't. It redirects. Here's exactly what to say in the chair. I want a textured pixie with longer length through the crown and a soft side-swept fringe, with the sides tapered close but not buzzed. That word tapered matters. It tells the stylist you want a gradual fade, not a hard-shaved line, which keeps it soft and flattering instead of severe. Second fix. Ask for piece-wide texture through the top, which just means the stylist uses thinning shears or a razor to break up the ends so the top doesn't sit like a helmet. Without that texture, even a good pixie can look stiff. Third, don't let anyone talk you into going shorter than your jawline can support. If you have a fuller lower face, keep at least 1.5 inches of length through the crown for balance. Too short up top with a fuller jaw is the one version of this cut that doesn't work. So be specific about that crown length. Before and after on this one is dramatic. Before, shoulder-length hair with no real shape, just hanging there, adding visual weight to the whole lower half of the face. After, short, textured sides with movement on top, drawing everything upward toward the eyes. Maintenance-wise, this is a 4 to 5 week cut, no negotiating. Texture grows out fast and starts looking shapeless again right around week 6. Now the third one, and this is the cut I get asked about more than almost any other. The long bob with curved layers, sometimes called a lob, but built specifically with a slight curve at the jawline instead of a straight blunt edge. Here's the real reason this one works and a blunt edge bob doesn't. For most women over 60, a perfectly straight blunt line at the jaw draws a hard horizontal across the widest part of most aging faces. It's unforgiving. A curved layer, where the front pieces are slightly longer than the back, softens that line into something closer to a frame than a cutoff point. What nobody mentions is that this curve has to be asked for specifically, because lob alone, without specifying the curve, often gets you the blunt version by default. Most stylists default to straight because it's faster to execute. Say this exactly. I want a long bob with curved face framing layers at the front, slightly longer in front than the back, with the length landing right at or just below the jaw. That phrase, slightly longer in front than the back, is the part that actually creates the curve. Second fix, and this one's secretly the most important. Ask for graduated layering at the back, which means the layers underneath are cut shorter than the top ones. This is what gives a lob its shape and bounce instead of letting it sit flat and heavy at the nape. Third, a few face framing pieces left longer right at the cheekbone, even within the curve. This gives you somewhere to tuck hair, somewhere to play with styling, and it keeps the whole cut from feeling rigid. Before and after here is subtle, but it photographs completely differently. Before, a straight blunt edge bob with a hard horizontal line at the jaw. After, the same length curved softly forward, with graduated layers underneath for shape. Maintenance is every 6 to 8 weeks. The curve and the graduation both grow out evenly, so you've got a little more flexibility than the pixie. What changes everything with this cut is the curve. Most women who say, I tried a lob and it didn't work for me, were given the blunt version, not this one. The difference between the two is night and day on camera. So that's 3 cuts that genuinely take years off. Now we flip it, because the next part covers a haircut that's quietly making thousands of women look older every single day. And it's one most of you have probably had at some point this year. Haircut number 1 to avoid. The severe blunt bob with no layers. You've seen this cut 1,000 times. Sharp, perfectly straight, ends cut with a ruler edge precision. It looks polished in the chair. Then you get home, look in your own mirror under your own lighting, and something feels harder than you expected. This is the severe blunt bob. No layers, no texture, one length cut with a completely straight line across the bottom. And it's one of the most requested cuts for women over 60, because it looks neat and put together in photos online. It's also one of the most aging. Here's the specific reason, and it's not just opinion, it's about how hard lines interact with a changing face. As skin softens and loses some of its tautness with age, a perfectly straight, sharp-edged line creates a visual contrast against the face that reads as harsh rather than crisp. It's the opposite of softening. It's drawing attention to exactly the kind of definition that's already changing. What nobody tells you about this cut is that it was actually designed for younger faces with more skin tautness and higher cheekbone contrast. On a 25-year-old, that hard line looks editorial. On a softer, more mature face, it just looks heavy. There's a curiosity gap worth sitting in for a second. Why does the exact same haircut look completely different on two women the same age? It comes down to one thing. How much layering is built in around the face, even within an otherwise blunt shape. Zero layering is where it goes wrong every time. So here's the fix, and it's smaller than you'd think. You don't have to abandon the blunt bob entirely if you love the shape. Say this. Keep the one-length shape, but add soft internal layers just around the face, point cut, not blunt. That keeps the silhouette you like while breaking up the hard edge, exactly where it matters most. Second fix. Ask for the back to stay blunt if you want, but soften the front corners specifically, the 2 points right at your jaw on either side. Rounding those 2 corners slightly, instead of leaving them as sharp right angles, takes away most of the harshness without changing the overall cut. Third, and this one's secretly the easiest. Ask your stylist to angle the line very slightly longer in front, just half an inch, instead of perfectly level all the way around. A dead level line is what creates that ruler edge harshness. A soft, barely there forward angle reads as intentional and soft instead. Before and after. Before is the dead straight blunt line, full sharp corners, zero internal layering. After is the same one-length shape with soft point cut layers around the face, and a half-inch forward angle softening the corners. Same haircut, completely different feeling. Maintenance tip. This style needs a trim every 6 weeks specifically, because growth happens unevenly and a blunt shape shows that unevenness faster than almost any other cut. Let it go 8 weeks and you'll see the corners start sharpening back up on their own. The real reason this mistake is so common is simple. It photographs well on a phone screen for about 30 seconds in a salon mirror selfie, and that's exactly the moment most women decide they love it. Real life, real lighting, tells a different story. Up next is a cut that does something even sneakier. It doesn't look severe at all. It looks soft, pretty, totally harmless. That's exactly the problem. Haircuts number 2 and number 3 to avoid. The flat, underlayered long length plus the all one length rounded cut. This one sneaks up on women, because it doesn't look like a mistake at all. It looks soft. It looks low maintenance. It's hair grown out long, past the shoulders, with no real layering structure underneath. Just length, left to its own devices. Here's the issue nobody mentions. Hair density and texture both change with age, and most women's hair gets finer over time, even when it doesn't get visibly thinner. Long hair with zero layering puts all of that finer hair's weight at the very ends, which drags everything down, including, visually, the face underneath it. It's not that long hair ages you. It's that long hair with no structure does. The secret here is that most women who have this cut don't even realize it's a cut. They think they just haven't gotten a haircut in a while, when actually the absence of layering is the haircut. It's a choice, even when it doesn't feel like one. So here's exactly what to fix it. Say this. I want to keep the length, but add long layers starting around the collarbone, with face framing pieces from the cheekbone down. That phrase, starting around the collarbone, keeps you from losing length while still breaking up the weight. Second fix. Ask for internal layering, not just layers at the very ends. Internal layers are cut shorter underneath the visible length, so they create lift and movement you can't see directly but absolutely feel and notice in how the hair moves and falls. Third, if you want to keep things simple, even just adding face framing layers, nothing else, makes a noticeable difference. It's the smallest possible version of this fix, and it still changes how the whole face reads. Before and after. Before is long, flat, heavy length with no internal structure, weighing the whole face down. After is the same length with long layers starting at the collarbone and face framing pieces at the cheekbone. Maintenance is every 10 to 12 weeks for the layers, even though the overall length can go longer between cuts. One small shift here makes a bigger difference than almost anything else on this list, and it costs you nothing extra at your next appointment. Just ask for it. Now the third mistake, and this is the one I want you to really pay attention to, because it's the cut so many women default to without ever choosing it on purpose. The all one length rounded cut, sometimes called a mom bob, where the whole head is cut to one uniform length with a rounded, bowl-like shape. This isn't the same as the severe blunt bob from earlier. This one's softer looking, usually shorter, often chin to jaw length, rounded at the bottom instead of straight across. It looks gentle. It's also one of the most universally aging shapes there is, and here's exactly why. A rounded, one-length cut with no layering anywhere mirrors the natural roundness of an aging face instead of contrasting it. Where you want angles and lift to create definition, this cut doubles down on roundness everywhere, at the chin, at the cheek, at the hairline. The result is a kind of softness that reads as shapeless rather than youthful. The real reason this cut is everywhere is that it's fast and easy for a stylist to execute, and it photographs as neat in a quick before shot. What it doesn't do is interact well with bone structure once you're standing in natural light, talking, moving your head. Here's the fix, and it's surprisingly simple. Say this. Keep the length around the chin, but add layers through the crown for height, and angle the front pieces slightly longer than the back. That single angle change takes the roundness and turns it into something closer to a soft point. Completely different feeling, same general length. Second fix. Ask for texture at the end, specifically through point cutting, the same technique from earlier, so the rounded bottom edge breaks up instead of reading as one solid curved line. Third, if you've got fuller cheeks, ask your stylist to keep at least a little length past the jaw rather than landing exactly at the widest point of your face. Even a ½ inch past the jaw changes how the roundness reads entirely. Before and after. Before is a perfectly rounded one-length bob landing right at the widest point of the face. After is the same chin-length cut with crown layers, an angled front, and point-cut texture at the ends. Maintenance is every 6 to 8 weeks, since the angle and the crown layers both need upkeep to keep doing their job. So there you have it, 3 cuts that take years off, and 3 that quietly add them. The difference, almost every time, comes down to layering and the exact words you use in that chair. You just learned the 3 cuts that genuinely take years off, and the 3 that quietly add them. And now you know exactly what to say in the chair to get the right one. Your bone structure was always there. Now your haircut is finally working with it instead of against it. Tell me in the comments, which of these 6 haircuts have you had? And did it match what I just described? Next time, I'm breaking down the exact words to use when your stylist says, "Trust me," and you're not sure you should. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.